yea, and also shields to defend their heads, and also they were dressed with thick clothing. Now the army of Zarahemna was not prepared with any such thing. They had only their swords and their scimitars, their bows and their arrows, their stones and their slings, and they were naked, save it were a skin which was girded about their loins. All were naked, save it were the Zoramites and the Amalekites. But they were not armed with breastplates nor shields, therefore they were exceedingly afraid of the armies of Nephites because of their armor, notwithstanding their number being so much greater than the Nephites. Behold, it came to pass that they durst not come against the Nephites in the borders of Jershon, therefore they departed out of the land of Antonios into the wilderness, and took their journey round about in the wilderness, away from the head of the river Sidon, that they might come into the land of Manti to take possession of the land, for they did not suppose that the armies of Moroni would know whither they had gone. But it came to pass, as soon as they had departed into the wilderness, Moroni sent spies into the wilderness to watch their camp. And Moroni, also knowing of the prophecies of Alma, sent certain men unto him, desiring him that should inquire of the Lord whether the armies of Nephites should go to defend themselves against the Lamanites. And it came to pass that the word of the Lord came unto Alma, and Alma informed the messengers of Moroni that the armies of the Lamanites were marching around in the wilderness, that they might come over into the land of Manti, that they might commence an attack upon the weaker part of the people. And those messengers went and delivered the message unto Moroni. Now Moroni, leaving part of his army in the land of Jershon, lest by any means part of the Lamanites should come into that land and take possession of the city, took the remaining part of his army and marched over into the land of Manti. And he caused that all people in the quarter of the land should gather themselves together to battle against the Lamanites, to defend their lands and their country, their rights and their liberties. Therefore they were prepared against the time of the coming of the Lamanites. And it came to pass that Moroni caused that his army should be secreted in the valley which was near the bank of the river Sidon, which was on the west of the river Sidon in the wilderness. And Moroni placed spies round about, that he might know when the camp of Lamanites should come. And now, as Moroni knew the intention of the Lamanites, that it was their intention to destroy their brethren, or to subject them and bring them into bondage, that they might establish a kingdom unto themselves over all the land. He also, knowing that it was the only desire of the Nephites to preserve their land and their liberty and their church, therefore he thought it no sin that he should defend them by stratagem. Therefore he found by his spies which course the Lamanites were to take. Therefore he divided his army and brought a part over into the valley, and concealed them on the east and on the south of the hill Riplah. And the remainder he concealed in the west valley, on the west of the river Sidon. And so down into the borders of the land Manti, and thus having placed his army according to his desire, he was prepared to meet them. And it came to pass that the Lamanites come up on the north of the hill, where part of the army of Moroni was concealed. And as the Lamanites had passed the hill Riplah and came into the valley, and began to cross the river Sidon, the army which was concealed on the south of the hill, which was led by a man whose name was Lehi, he led his army forth and encircled the Lamanites about on the east of their rear. And it came to pass that the Lamanites, when they saw the Nephites coming upon them in the rear, turned them about and began to contend with the army of Lehi. And the work of death commenced on both sides, but it was more dreadful on the part of the Lamanites, for their nakedness was exposed to the heavy blows of the Nephites and their swords and their scimitars, which brought death at almost every stroke. While on the other hand, there was now and then a man who fell among the Nephites by their swords and loss of blood, they being shielded from the more vital parts of the body being shielded from the strokes of the Lamanites by their breastplates and their arm shields and their headplates. Thus the Nephites did carry on the work of death among the Lamanites. And it came to pass that the Lamanites became frightened because of the great destruction among them, even until they began to flee towards the river Sidon. And they were pursued by Lehi and his men, and they were driven by Lehi into the waters of Sidon. And they crossed the waters of Sidon, and Lehi retained his armies upon the bank of the river of Sidon, that they should not cross. And it came to pass that Moroni and his armies met the Lamanites in the valley on the other side of the river Sidon, and began to fall upon them and to slay them. And the Lamanites did flee again before them towards the land of Manti, and they were met again by the armies of Moroni. Now in this case the Lamanites did fight exceedingly, yea, never had the Lamanites been known to fight with such exceedingly great strength and courage, no, not even from the beginning. And they were inspired by the Zoramites and the Amalekites, who their chief and captains and leaders, and by Zarahemnah, who was their chief captain or their chief leader and commander, yea, they did fight like dragons, and many of the Nephites were slain by their hands. Yea, for they did smite too many of their head plates, and they did pierce many of their breastplates, and they did smite off many of their arms, and the Lamanites did smite in their fierce anger. Nevertheless, the Nephites were inspired by a better cause, for they were not fighting for monarchy nor power, but were fighting for their homes and their liberties, their wives and their children, and their all, yea, for their rights of worship in their church. And they were doing what they felt was the duty which they owed to their God, for the Lord had said unto them and also unto their fathers, that inasmuch as ye are not guilty for the first offense, neither the second, ye shall not suffer yourselves to be slain by the hands of your enemies. And again the Lord has said that ye shall defend your families even unto bloodshed. Therefore for this cause the Nephites were contending with the Lamanites to defend themselves and their families and their lands, their country and their rights and their religion. And it came to pass that when the men of Moroni saw the fierceness and the anger of the Lamanites, they were about to shrink and flee from them. And Moroni, perceiving their intent, sent forth and inspired their hearts with these thoughts, yea, even the thoughts of their lands, their liberty, yea, their freedom from bondage. And it came to pass that they turned upon the Lamanites, and they cried with one voice unto the Lord their God for their liberty and their freedom from bondage. And they began to stand against the Lamanites with power. And that self-same hour they cried unto the Lord for their freedom. The Lamanites began to flee before them, and they fled even into the waters of Sidon. Now the Lamanites were numerous, yea, by more than double the number of Nephites. Nevertheless, they were driven insomuch that they gathered together in one body in the valley upon the bank of the river Sidon. Therefore the armies of Moroni encircled them about, yea, even on both sides of the river, for behold, on the east were the men of Lehi. Therefore, when Zarahemnah saw the men of Lehi on the east of the river Sidon, and the armies of Moroni on the west of the river Sidon, that they were encircled about by the Nephites, they were struck with terror. Now Moroni, when he saw their terror, commanded his men that they should stop shedding their blood. Chapter 44. And it came to pass that they did stop and withdrew a pace from them. And Moroni said unto Zarahemnah, Behold, Zarahemnah, that we do not desire to be men of blood. Ye know that ye are in our lands, yet we do not desire to slay you. Behold, we have not come out to battle against you that we might shed your blood for power, neither do we desire to bring any one to the yoke of bondage. But this was the very cause for which ye have come against us, yea, and ye are angry with us because of our religion. But now ye behold that the Lord is with us, and ye behold that he has delivered you into our hands. And now I would that ye should understand that this is done unto us because of our religion and our faith in Christ. And now ye see that ye cannot destroy this our faith. Now ye see that this is the true faith of God. Yea, ye see that God will support and keep and preserve us so long as we are faithful unto him and unto our faith and our religion. And never will the Lord suffer that we shall be destroyed except when we should fall into transgression and deny our faith. Now, Zarahemnah, I command you in the name of that all-powerful God who has strengthened our arms, that we have gained power over you by our faith, by our religion, by our rights of worship, and by our church, and by the sacred support which we owe to our wives and our children, by that liberty which binds us to our lands and our country, yea, and also by the maintenance of the sacred word of God, to which we owe all our happiness, and by all that is most dear unto us. Yea, and this is not all. I command you by all desires which ye have for life, that ye deliver up your weapons of war unto us, and we will not seek your blood, but we will spare your lives, if ye go your way, and come not again to war against us. And now, if ye do not do this, behold, ye are in our hands, and I will command my men that they shall fall upon you, and inflict the wounds of death in your bodies, that ye may become extinct, and then we will see who shall have power over this people, yea, we shall see who shall be brought into bondage. And now it came to pass, when Zerahemnah heard these things, he came forth and delivered up his sword and his scimitar and his bow into the hands of Moroni, and said unto him, Behold, here are our weapons of war, we deliver them unto you, but we will not suffer ourselves to take an oath with you, which we know that we shall break, and as our children, and also our children, but take our weapons of war, and suffer that we may depart into the wilderness, otherwise we will retain our swords, and we will perish or conquer. Behold, we are not of your faith, we do not believe that it is God that has delivered us into your hands, but we believe that it is your cunning that has preserved you from our swords. Behold, it is your breastplates and your shields that have preserved you. And now when Zerahemnah made an end of speaking these words, Moroni returned the sword and the weapons of war which he had received unto Zerahemnah, saying, Behold, we will end the conflict. Now I cannot recall the words which I have spoken, therefore, as the Lord liveth, ye shall not depart, except ye depart with an oath that ye will not return against us to war. Now as ye are in our hands, we will spill your blood upon the ground, or ye shall submit to the conditions which I have proposed. And now when Moroni said these words, Zerahemnah retained his sword. He was angry with Moroni, and he rushed forward that he might slay Moroni. But as he raised his sword, behold, one of Moroni's soldiers smote it even to the earth, and broke it by the hilt. And he also smote Zerahemnah, that he took off his scalp, and it fell to the earth. Jesus Christ. And Zerahemnah withdrew from before them into the midst of his soldiers. And it came to pass that the soldier who stood by that smote off the scalp of Zerahemnah took the scalp from the ground by the hair, and laid it upon the point of his sword, and stretched it forth unto them, saying unto them with a loud voice, Even as the scalp has fallen to the earth, which is the scalp of your chief, so shall ye fall to the earth, except we will deliver you upon weapons of war, and depart with a covenant of peace.
I thought Mormonism was invented during the gunpowder age. Why the fuck are they using swords and all that?
What? This all happened before Christ was born. This happened in America before there were Indians.
Jesus. I think I'm gonna become an atheist now.
Why? Don't you want to believe Moroni kicked Zerahemnah's ass in some river somewhere? Luigi, I hope you're listening. This will make you better at Wargame. Anyway. Now there were many when they heard these words and saw the scalp which was upon the sword, that they were struck with fear, and many came forth and threw down their weapons of war at the feet of Moroni, and entered into a covenant of peace. And as many as entered into a covenant, they suffered to depart into the wilderness. And now it came to pass that Zerahemnah was exceedingly wroth, and he did stir up the remainder of his soldiers to anger, to contend more powerfully against the Nephites. Now Moroni was angry because of the stubbornness of the Lamanites. Therefore he commanded his people that they should fall upon them and slay them. And it came to pass that they began to slay them, yea, and the Lamanites did contend with their swords in their might. But behold, their naked skins and their bare heads were exposed to the sharp swords of the Nephites. Yea, behold, they were pierced and smitten, yea, and did fall exceedingly fast before the swords of the Nephites. And they began to be swept down, even as the soldier of Moroni had prophesied. Now Zerahemnah, when he saw that they were all about to be destroyed, he cried mightily unto Moroni, promising that he would covenant, and also his people with them, if they would spare the remainder of their lives, that they would never come to war against them. And it came to pass, Moroni caused that the work of death should cease among the people, and he took the weapons of war from the Lamanites. After they had entered into a covenant with him of peace, they were suffered to depart into the wilderness. Now the number of their dead was not numbered because of the greatness of the number. Yea, even the number of their dead was exceedingly great, both from the Nephites and the Lamanites. And it came to pass that they did cast their dead into the waters of Sidon, and they gone forth and were buried in the depths of the sea. The armies and the Nephites, or of Moroni, returned and came to their houses and their lands, and thus ended the 18th year of the reign of the judges of the people of Nephi, and thus ended the record of Alma, which is written upon the plates of Nephi. And that's the end of the Battle of Sidon. See? That's just what happens when you piss off the righteous. They just love to kill.